Yo, what's up? Welcome to Numbers with Ace Jakari. I'm your host, Ace Jakari, but you already know, call me Ace. And in this episode, we are breaking down something I'm so excited about because numbers and relationships and love, that's what we're talking about today. Because it's so cool. I've been working on this for so long because it goes so in depth. And I literally cannot even touch on everything that possibly comes with this in just this episode alone because it goes so deep. Because when we think about numerology, typically you're just like, oh yeah, personal numerology. But each number comes with different areas of life. And that's how we are able to decipher what numbers connect to what area of life, or rather what numbers connect to relationships and how they connect to relationships, and how all numbers show up in relationships. And we're going to go over both sides because, of course, I need to give you as much as I can. So that make sure you strap in because we're going to get into it. So the numbers that are starting off in regards to the area of life that connect to relationships are number 2, 6, and 8. 2 is ruled by the moon, and it highlights emotions, fluidity, your needs, your comforts, your emotional intimacy, basically the love of the relationship. And also at the same time highlights obsession, insecurity, inconsistency, levels of anxiety, and also jealousy. Now, the reason why this number is connected to relationships is because of its area of life being community and connection, as well as levels of love and just relationships in general. Because 2 is very focused on connectivity, it automatically brings every relationship, romantic and platonic, into the communication, into the conversation, basically. Now, in regards to how we look at this in a relationship, the best way to see all of these things play out is using, in my experience at least, the technique of natural order that I've created. So we're going to be looking at the number over your 2, which we'll explain a little bit more later, but follow me for right now. The number that is over your 2 is likely to highlight what you desire in a relationship, what helps you feel safe, what helps you feel loved, your needs, your comforts, your genuine intentions, that intimacy we talked about, as well as the love of people. But this also might highlight how or why you manipulate people, and also in what ways, what you might lie about, what you're inconsistent with, what your relational insecurities are, how you're inconsistent in relationships, as well as your just overall relationship anxieties, your worries, your fears, your doubts, your what ifs are very much all highlighted by that number that sits over your 2. Now, we're also looking at the overall behavior of all of these numbers, but we're going to look at the number 6, which is ruled by Venus and Jupiter. Now, 6 highlights pleasure, sensuality, harmony, money, your comforts again, but more of a physical comfort. 2 is more emotional and feelings based. It's that internal comfort, whereas 6 is sort of kind of touching into that material comfort or that physical comfort, because 6 is a very sensory focused energy. Now, it also highlights on the other side dependence, overindulgence, another form of jealousy as well, dissatisfaction, and also possessiveness. And this definitely shows up very clearly in regards to the area of life it connects to. A lot of people will say home and family. I personally will say home and family is a little bit more, family is more 2, home can also be 6. There's a lot of conversation that we could have here, but we're gonna just say the area of life is intimacy in regards to that physical intimacy, not just sexual, but physical intimacy, enjoyment, and levels of luxury. And in regards to the relationship specifically, the number over your 6 through the technique of natural order would highlight intimate desires. This can be sex, sensuality, pleasures, etc. What brings you pleasure, what things you desire, lovey things, material gain in relationship, how and where you experience euphoria, as well as the exceptions you make, the excuses, what you might settle for, and also how you're dissatisfied in relationships and where you might be a little bit more dependent than you'd like to. Now, the last number is 8, and I wonder if you weren't expecting 8 to be a part of relationships, because I feel like anytime I have conversations with people about it, they're like, why is 8 in there? 8 is ruled by Saturn and Pluto, and it highlights stability, foundations, boundaries, intensity, and depth. And on the other side, also a control, dominance, abuse, trauma, and confinement, and also delays. Now, the reason why 8 is in almost any conversation in regards to things that you're looking at in regards to your career or your relationships or money or anything, literally, it is because of the area of life it rules over is time. And that's everything. Time. This is not only just the long term, the short term, time. It's all of it. It also highlights that stability, your boundaries, your routines, and the things that you're planning for. So when we're looking at relationships, you would look at the number that's over your 8 in regards to, and that highlights what you're thinking in regards to long-term intentions, the needed boundaries, the things that you're planning for in the future, how you assert or take dominance or take control, the things you need to feel stable, the relational depths, but also abuse or traumas in relationships, boundaries, and also the respect that you have for the relationship. And I think all of this is so cool to look at because this is not just romantic relationships. I would say 6 is leans more into the romantic side, but 2 and 8 are all relationships at foundation. I would say for more friendships, I would add 3 in there a little bit because 3 adds that social space. It adds in the social interactions of you and other parties that are not necessarily super close to you. I will say 3 in regards to relationships definitely leans into 2 energy. So when you're looking at more romantic things, because we're talking about a little bit more lovey-dovey type stuff here, so it is a little bit more romantic focus because we're talking about 6. When you're looking at your relationships, looking at the numbers that sit over your 2 and your 8 is really where you get the most insight. Now, I do want you to look at, if you would like to know a little bit more about my technique of natural order, I would recommend copying my free guide, Finding Your Chart, which will highlight what numbers sit over your numbers. So go ahead and follow along because we're about to now look at how these numbers connect to each number personally. Now, you can do this with your psychic number. You can also do this with your destiny number. You can also do this with your supplementary numbers. So you might have a lot of numbers to listen to that I'm going to speak on. So I'd recommend, honestly, just listening to them all, just so you can sort of kind of see what everybody's getting at, because everybody's energy is a little bit different and it's so cool to look at. Now, this is going to be a general assessment, and definitely I can give more personal information in a reading that is just you and I, which is something that I do provide. So if you want to check that out, go ahead. But to keep this short as possible, I'm going to do the desires the things you desire in a relationship based off your numerology, which would be highlighted by the number over your 2. Also, what you might settle for, which would be the number highlighted by the number that sits over your 6, and also the ways that you can cultivate depth with this other party, or even with yourself, or people can cultivate depth with you, which would be highlighted with the number over your 8. And I'm very, very excited. So we're going to go ahead and get started because it's so cool. It's so cool. Okay, so number 1, this would be for people who are born on the 1st, the 10th, the 19th, or 28th, or just have 1 in their numbers somewhere. So that can be anybody who's also born from the 10th to the 19th. The 21st can be thrown in there. The 31st can be thrown in there. This can just be you having 1 supplementary somewhere in your numbers. It's literally 1 somewhere. Now, 1 in regards to desires, this is highlighted by the fact that they have 2 over 2. Desires straightforward, very consistent, and very certain. And this comes from not only 1's energy being ruled by the sun, very consistent, very steady moving, but it also can be very impulsive. But I will say that 1 definitely wins in the long game when they learn to take their time. It's not something that 1 likes to do necessarily, but in desiring this straightforward and this consistent, you also have to embody those things, okay? You want somebody who's going to show up for you, baby. You got to show up for yourself too. So I want you to be definitely able to work on that. Now, in regards to what they might settle for, they have a tendency to be attracted to potential, not what's actually right in front of them. And it's really because 1 is very illuminating. It's ruled by the sun, so it's very bright, it's very big, and it's very aware as well. It highlights awareness. So when it's looking at people, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm seeing all of these potentials. I'm seeing all of these great, beautiful, bright, bold qualities. So whatever's the brightest in these people that they're experiencing is likely to be whatever's 1 is attributing to these person's characteristics. Now, that might not be what is at the top of the surface or top of the person, but it's there, and 1 is like, that's enough for me. And I need 1 to be a little bit more thorough so that they're not just looking at potential and just hoping that that person will become what they see. Allow yourself to look at what's right there. Allow yourself to be a little bit more blunt and not only say remove the hopefulness. It's like, no, let the hopefulness exist, but also allow yourself to be in a space of, okay, I see what you can become, but I also recognize where you are now. Now, in regards to building depth, and also that's what is that? The things that you settle for is highlighted by that 6/6 for number 1. Now, for the things in regards to depth, which is highlighted by having 8/8, that would be highlighted, and things depth would be cultivated in spaces of clarity, but also when people embody authenticity and intentionality. Again, these are natural themes of 1. So it makes sense that, oh yeah, I feel closer to you when you are just yourself. So that authenticity is very much just very key to getting a little bit deeper into 1, and 1 also becoming deeper with themselves as well. Now, at the core, or just in general, 1 tends to be attracted to things around confidence and certainty and authenticity, and it's really beautiful to see when 1 already embodies those things in themselves and then is going out into the world and being like, okay, let me welcome the people in here. And they're able to find other people who are also confident and authentic and certain within themselves. That's where we find the beauty, I will say. Now, when we get into the number 2, that would be anybody who's born on the 2nd, the 11th, 20th, or 29th, but also anybody who's born on the 12th would be in there, being born on the 20th through 29th. All of those are in there, as well as having 2 anywhere supplementary in your numbers. Now, the desires for 2 are a deep sense of love, a space for their emotions, and also a deep care from and also for their partners. That's what it just hits different, and this is because they have 3 over their 2. Now, 2 is ruled by the moon, so it highlights this fluidity, like we talked about at the beginning, this fluidity, this emotionality, this feeling, this care, and when they're able to embody that and really sort of kind of just dwell in that in a healthy manner with another person, it's just like a sigh of relief in a sense. Now, I will say, in the same awareness of that sigh of relief, of that peace, sometimes that can come with or come from familiarity, and that's something that 2 might settle for, and this is because of that 7/6. And with 2 being connected to connections, community, and immediate family, most importantly, 2 might find themselves repeating patterns, especially generationally, in regards to the relationships they saw growing up, in regards to the relationships they saw their parents have. All of those things really play a heavier role into how they go about relationships moving forward. So you might find yourself very much in relationships that are very similar to either the relationship you have with your parents or the relationships your parents have, whether you want to or not. Now, in regards to the depth that 2 is seeking and how to cultivate it, it's found through movement, especially energetic, emotional, sensual, intimate movement. And this is highlighted by the 9/8. And it's because 2 really needs this nurturance, this gentleness, this care, all of these things that it in itself embodies. And the actions that align with that really help 2 be like, wow, you see me, you get me. I like it here. I might stay here. Can you pass me a blanket here? Right? It's that type of vibe of just like, I'm gonna go ahead and curl up and take a nap because 2 loves a good nap. But overall, 2 is attracted to nurturance, honesty, and overall ease, because I always say that 2 was really not meant for this world, especially the way that it's currently set up. It's very go, go, go. It's very much do what you have to do. Whatever needs to be done must be done, and it has to be done in this amount of time. And 2 is very much just like, I want to move when I want to move, when I need to move, when there's a push, there's a pull, there's a breeze, there's something to help me along this movement, not just to move just because I gotta move. And that's very much 2's natural energy. Now, for number 3, and this would be for anybody who's born on the 3rd, the 12th, the 21st, or 30th, and that also includes anybody who's born on the 13th is also in there. The 31st is also in there, and any 3s supplementary as well. Their deep desires come from adventure. They desire adventure, exploration, and spontaneity. And that's very much highlighted in the rulerships that 3 has of being ruled by Jupiter, Mars, and Venus. Very much action oriented. Let's go somewhere. Let's do some things energy. Now, we'll say in the same breath, a lot of 3s tend to be very introverted. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they don't want to go somewhere. They want to go somewhere with certain people. It's not everybody. Even though, again, 3 rules over social spaces. You would think, okay, yeah, I'm going to be out there. I'm going to be interacting with people. 9 times out of 10, a lot of people are aware or are in 3's sphere. That does not necessarily mean there's a closeness that 3 is allowing with all of those people. And this also is very much highlighted by the 4 over the 2 of there's a lot of big emotions. There's a lot of excitement, very expressive energy that comes with that 4 over that 2, which I personally like. I personally am here for that. Now, in regards to the close circle, it also brings in the fact that 3 having 4 over that 2 makes, I would say, in a sense, makes their heart really big, really excitable. And when they find somebody that they like to some extent, they might end up settling for somebody, some sort of power imbalance. And I say that because 3 experiences deep senses of care, again, especially because of that 4 over that 2, but that settling to that power imbalance is highlighted by that 8 over their 6. Now, again, 3 has a very big heart, but it can put them in a position where they're seeing this potential being something that 3 in and of itself highlights, and they're just like, okay, I believe what I'm seeing, even though what I'm seeing might not be fact right now. I know you can do better, and I believe in you. And that might not always happen. It might not always get better. Sometimes, baby, you just gotta cut the cord and move on. You might not see the realities until later, but sometimes you also gotta trust that inner judgment, because intuition can be something that is very strong for every number, but especially with that 4 over 2 placement, it can be very strong for 3s. Now, in regards to the depth is definitely found through newness, authenticity, and uniqueness. And this is highlighted by the 1 over the 8 for 3. Now, 3 is very much drawn to originality, things that 1 highlights, and also things that 3 highlights, but also things that are commonly just like untouched. It's like, okay, I want to discover something. And that's very much highlighted in the adventurous spirit that they have of, I want to, uncover the mysteries and dig through it myself. I want to figure it out. Like the fun comes from, the exhilaration comes from the discovery of it all. So people who are authentic to themselves can bring 3 a sense of comfort through the differences, but also gives them the space to discover more. Because even though you're authentic, doesn't mean that everything is at the top of the totem pole. It's sometimes you gotta still dig, and that's okay, and 3 is here for it. Now, again, that also leads into their natural attraction to themes around discovery, adventure, and things that are just new and just potential. And that's very much where 3 lives at, and I'm not really mad at it. Now, I will say, if you are enjoying what you're hearing, make sure you share it on your socials and tag me at Numbers with Ishtakari on Instagram or TikTok. Go ahead and book your free consult so you can understand your personal numbers, because I know you got a couple in there that you want to know about, so let me help you out. All the direct links are in the description of this episode, but let's get back to these numbers and relationships, because it's so much fun. We're having fun. I'm having fun. We're having fun. So number 4, that's for anybody who's born on the 4th, the 13th, 22nd, or the 31st. That can also be the 14th. That can also be the 24th as well. Now, the desires for the number 4 are themes around thoughtfulness and spontaneity, but also understanding. And this is highlighted by that 5 that they have over there too. Now, 4 is very naturally anxiety prone. It's ruled by Uranus, the North Node, Rahu, Saturn, Mercury. That's 5 rulers. It's a lot of energy right there. And with that mind being so easily stimulated and also being so aware of everything going on around them, it kind of just like panic. There's nothing else to do but panic. And having somebody who understands and accepts the anxieties that they have and helps them supports them through what they're processing and what they're feeling can help them to feel closer. Because hey, if you were feeling scared or nervous or uncertain and somebody looked at you and was like, hey, I'm right here, we got this, you'd probably also feel safe too. So shout out to the 4s real quick. Now, I will say that in regards to the anxiety that they feel, they may settle for a level of chaos or instability due to familiarity, and this is highlighted by the 9 that they have over their 6. Now, 4 is commonly raised around some level of instability. It doesn't necessarily always have to be that you're moving a lot. It can be, though. It could also be that there's like your parents aren't really close, aren't good with each other, or there's always something going wrong, just something that's always throwing a wrench in the plan, basically. And that instability that you're growing up with is likely to be something that just you carry with you throughout the rest of your life. And also, this tends to be something that 4 is very unaware of until later in life. And that comes with that Saturn rulership of things just take time to comprehend sometimes. And when you're able to recognize that, hey, I keep repeating these same patterns, and I don't want to repeat these same patterns, you're able to then look at all of the things that you want in a partner and also find the depth that you're seeking. And that depth for 4 is found through honesty, gentleness, support, and protection. And 4 has to do that for themselves, just like the other people in their lives. And that's definitely highlighted by that 2 over that 8. And it also highlights that 2 over that 8 also highlights the close draw between immediate family and also extended family. So that also might play a heavy role for them. Now, they're naturally attracted to very enigmatic nature, not only because that's something that they embody, but also who doesn't like somebody you ain't never seen before, as well as maturity, but also a level of stability and rebellion. And when I say stability and rebellion, that's highlighted in that enigmatic nature, because they're like stability and like rules and structure and chaos don't really seem to go hand in hand, but they do for 4. And they tend to be like, that's exciting because it's familiar. And there's also sometimes nothing wrong with that type of familiarity. Now, when we look at number 5, and this would be for somebody who's born on the 5th, the 14th, or the 23rd, but also the 15th and the 25th can slide in there. And anybody else who has a 5 somewhere supplementary in the numbers, like a 35 or a 45, and so on and so forth. That would highlight the desire being around ease, expression, comfortability, things that feel natural, things that don't take a lot of effort, because 5 in and of itself is very movement focused. It's just like, we're going to go, we're going to explore, we're going to do. And it's typically also very mentally focused, because 5 is also the only number that reflects itself. Now, that reflection can cause a internalization. Reflections are typically 2 numbers that sit on opposite sides of the same vibration, but with 5 sitting on the opposite side of the same vibration with itself, it's sort of kind of just like hitting back and forth with itself, and it's not always that comfortable. Now, when it's seeking things that feel natural, that comes from the 6 that's over their 2. So 5 can be very go with the flow, and 6 naturally seeks pleasure. So when the energy isn't just natural, and it's not saying, hey, let me do this, hey, let's go do that, hey, let's do this thing, and it's just not a ease, 5 is sort of kind of just like, maybe not. And it's not really very much a forced thought either. It's like 5 is very much like, we're rocking with the vibes. Now, with them rocking with the vibes, sometimes they might rock with the vibes a little too hard and end up settling for somebody who's taking the control completely. And in regards to like that, there's a sort of kind of like a, what is that? Just a power imbalance of just you're somebody who's you're not allowing the 5 to really have a say in a sense. And that's where I get a little concerned, because when the other one party is only the what I say goes bag, that doesn't typically end well in like every movie I've seen. So this is a joke, but anyways, that's highlighted over with that 1 over that 6. Now, at the same time, 5 is okay by itself. It doesn't always need interaction, because again, that internalization. So it's just like, it's with that reflection, it's sort of kind of just like, it's me, and it's me. So sometimes 5 might not always come out of their shell, which can also be something that they might have to work through. Now, depth for 5 is found through exploration, adventure, and creativity. And that's highlighted by that 3 over that 8. And I absolutely love this for them, because when they're able to consistently try and discover and research and look into and peek around and poke here and peek around this thing and look into that, it just is exciting for them. And I really want that for them. I want that for 5 so bad. Now, 5 is attracted to comfortable change. And I say this because, again, that reflection plays such a heavy role for 5 of When 5 wants to move, 5's cool. However, when 5 is forced to move, 5 is no longer cool. So when I say comfortable change, it's typically self-initiated change. It's like, if you're telling me I gotta do this right now, this way, 5 might not really mess with that. It's not really the vibe. So you want to allow 5 to, it's very much attracted to 5 sort of kind of making decisions for itself when it wants to make decisions for itself. Now, it's also attracted to new information, but also childlike expression. 5 is ruled by Mercury and Jupiter, and that's a very childlike, but also childlike and playful energy in that mercurial rulership, but also this wise and matured energy in this Jupiter. So allowing that freeness and that playfulness to come out in that 5 or come out in that childlike expression, definitely key. Now, when we look at 6, which is for anybody who's born on the 6th, the 15th, the 24th, but also the 16th and the 26th, the desires come from deep conversations, fun facts, but also this like indescribable spiritual depth. And that's highlighted by that 7 over there too. 7 is very intellectually stimulating, and it's interesting to me how many people will look at 6 and be like, oh, yep, just home and family. Oh, yep, just beauty and pleasure. It's like, yes, but there's more. So with that being the case of 2, or rather 7 being over that 2, there's a lot of depth in the emotions. And when you're able to dive deep through those conversations, you got yourself a winner. You got yourself a winner. Now, with that admiration towards those deep conversations, it puts 6 in a position where it might settle for charm or wishful thinking and a comfort of just like, it feels good, so I'm gonna stay. Even if it's not the perfect thing, even if there's a little bit of things that I'm like, I'd prefer if you didn't do this, but I mean, I guess like you ain't that bad. So that's not a good thing. 6, don't do that. And that's highlighted by that 2 over that 6 of that just is very comfort seeking. 6 loves to feel good, and with 2 over 6, the right words or right actions when they're said or done, even if all the boxes aren't checked, like I said before, it's sort of kind of just like, yeah, I'm gonna sit back. Because also 6 is not very pleased by the idea or even slightly intrigued by the idea of confrontation. It's literally very confrontation avoidant. So it's just like, oh, there's going to be trouble here. I shall close my eyes and take a nap now. Is very much the vibe. Now, it also puts in a position where 6 might make excuses also for their partner. Now, let me stop ragging on you. Because also the depth comes from the stability and also the consistency, but also a little bit of mind reading. And I say this because they have 4 of their 8, and 6 can be very straightforward. It's very sensory focused and fairly consistent in some areas. 6 likes what it likes and doesn't like what it doesn't like. And when you learn what makes them feel good, that happiness, that excitement, that pleasure, that comfort, that safety that they're seeking, it shows up with ease. Now, they're attracted to genuineness and caring natures, as well as just the comfort to decompress, which I feel like everybody should get in their life. So treat your 6s with care, please. Now, with number 7, this would be anybody who's born on the 7th, the 16th, or the 25th, as well as the 17th is also in there and the 27th is in there. They desire an emotional maturity, but also this depth and honesty and overall stability of a safe place to be emotional. And this is highlighted by the 8 over the 2. Now, 8 and over 2 is likely to bring a tendency to be blunt, first of all, and also a tendency to be a little bit more emotionally reserved. But when you're able to cultivate a stable ground for those emotions, they can creep their way out. Now, I will say, in regards to that reserved nature, it might lead to 7 settling for people who are creative or a little bit more out there than them, more externally expressive, or bring more of a depth or an expansion. And that's not always a bad thing. but it's depending on in what ways is this depth showing up, in what ways is this creativity showing up, in what ways is this expansion showing up. Because this is highlighted because of 3 over their 6. Now 3 and 7 reflect each other, and 7 tends to be very introverted and expresses internally, whereas 3 expresses externally, which can cause a little bit of uncertainty around what I should do in certain situations. They're like, oh, should I stay or should I go? I don't know if I really actually like it here. Well, I think like this part is cute, and I think that this is okay, and this is fine, but I'm not really sure about the rest of this, and I don't really want to think about this no more. It's sort of kind of what can happen with that reflection with 3 and 7 in regards to relationship of the overthinking, and they can sort of kind of fall into that trap of their own mental space and settle in there. Whereas the relationship is not with themselves, it's with the other party. It is in regards to themselves in some ways, but when you're interacting with another person, we also need to consider the other person. So 7 can sometimes struggle to take the other person into account fully, if that makes sense. Now, depth comes from conversation as well as a unique adventure, but also mental stimulation of when you're able to activate that mind. And this is with literally every number that has a Mercury rulership, because 7 is ruled by Mercury, the South Node, Ketu. I feel like there's one more in there. I want to say Neptune. That mental stimulation, it's gonna do it every time. It's gonna do it every time. And the attraction really comes in with this spiritual depth and exploration and also freedom. And that freedom is highlighted in 7's naturally formless and boundless nature. So when you're able to let 7 just float and live their life, 7's like, oh, this is cool, and dap you up. And then you lived happily ever after. Now with the number 8, and that would be for anybody who's born on the 8th, the 17th, or the 26th, as well as the 18th or 28th, they desire a passion, a deep passion, a lot of things around depth, because 8 rules over things that are deep. So desiring a passion, excitement, and also expression. And it's highlighted by the 9 that they have over there too. Now with that, it can make 8 a little bit more impulsive, more reactive, but also when they're able to transmute that into something that's honest, but also something that is truthful to the situation and productive to the conversation, and productive to or conducive with the interaction. That's when they win. That's when they win a little bit. Now with the reactivity and impulsivity that can be highlighted by that 9 over the 2, they can find themselves settling for things they already know how to navigate, which tends to be around themes that are a little bit chaotic, because 8 is ruled by Saturn and Pluto, and that is just some chaotic energy right there. Now, this would be in a position of where they might grow up in a caregiver position, and they might end up in a relationship where they're still giving care more than they're receiving care, or it's not a equal interaction in whatever way you would want it to be equal, or a balanced interaction in whatever way one would want it to be balanced, and that can be detrimental for 8. Now I think one of the things that 8 would benefit from would be undiscovered relationship dynamics, and that's because they have 4 over their 6, and 4 is very much unique, out of the box, very original, things you haven't seen before. So I sort of kind of want 8 to rebel a little bit and just try some shit that they ain't tried before. Now, the depth for 8 is definitely found through comfort and decompression, because 8 with that Saturn and Pluto rulership, there's a lot of movement there, but it's not in your face movement. There's always something going on. And I feel like that really gets on 8's nerves, that there's always something going on. What if I just wanted to sit down for 5 minutes and take a nap? I don't know, maybe eat some food. Like that probably sounds really hectic and really annoying. So when they're able to find that space to decompress, and that's very much highlighted with that 6 over the 8, it's heaven on earth. Now they tend to be attracted to things that highlight care, but also a level of familiarity, but also time and patience to discover, of not really always rushing into things. They definitely can, but also being able to be like, oh, what's under here? Then what's over here? And let me open this cabinet real quick. What's in this drawer over here? It's sort of kind of the vibe of 8, and I love that. Now for the number 9, that would be for anybody who's born on the 9th, the 18th, the 27th, but also the 19th is in there and the 29th is in there, and any other supplementary 9s. That number 9 desires a uniqueness and an authenticity and also a confidence, and this is highlighted by that 1 over there too. And there's also a newness in there of just like, okay, I haven't done this before, so I'm excited because what can we find out here? Because 9 is very easily excitable. It's ruled by Mars and Neptune, so it's very passionate, it's very excitable, it's very enigmatic in its nature. And when it's able to take that energy and find something similar, oh yeah, locked in. Definitely locked in. Now, I will say that excitement may also have them settle for just the mental stimulation and not always the direct physical stimulation or the other types of stimulation that are not just mental. And that's highlighted by their 5 over their 6, and 5 is ruling over that mind and mental space. So they might just be a little bit too in their head about things and not always be able to get into their body, or be too in their head and not really think about anything else, or they're only thinking about the person that they're interested in. So that can always, it's a slippery slope, if you will, because when you're only thinking about the person that you are in a romantic relationship with, if you have other relationships, you're therefore neglecting those other relationships, and that might not always balance out in the way that you want it to. Now, depth for 9 is found through exploration, internal adventure, as in indulging in the other person's mind, as well as levels of nostalgia and familiarity. 9 has a very naturally childlike energy, and I absolutely love that for them because it's so cute. It's so cute to look at. But that familiarity, and when I'm able to just let my inner self come out, the inner child, the inner teen come out, that is where you're finally experiencing the full depths of 9. And that's also very much highlighted by the 7 over their 8 that they have. Now, overall, they're attracted to adventure, freedom, and passion, and that's highlighted in their natural energy. So it sort of kind of makes sense. Now, though all of these numbers have their own personal interaction with relationships, and there's a lot of things that we can even go deeper on, I want to touch on each number 1 through 9 in regards to its personal energy of how it would likely show up in a relationship, or rather what area of the relationship it highlights. So 1 is likely highlighting of your autonomy, your individuality, who you are, what you embody singularly, because it is that 1. Now 2 highlights the connection itself, what pulls you together, that emotional intimacy, and also maybe a desired family dynamic. Now 3 also can highlight that interactions with social media, interactions with social spaces, but also social outings, outside options, and outside opinions can also be highlighted in that 3. 4 likely highlights that future, the progression and growth in the relationship. 5 is highlighting those communications, those discussions, the processing of the things you're thinking about and what you might hope for the relationship. 6 highlights that physical intimacy, but also those hopes, those dreams, those desires, those that feels good, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure. It sort of kind of ends there. As well as the comforts and sensuality. 7 highlights that inner work, those deeper thoughts, even the shadow work that can come with relationships. 8 highlights those long-term things, the generations that can come from relationships, or the generational ties to relationships, the boundaries, legal things like marriage and other things, of even like restraining orders is also highlighted in 8, but also the status of the relationship. And then 9 highlights the transitions, the transformations, and the growth periods or the endings of relationships as well. Now, I'm really intrigued by all of this, and I hope you're intrigued by all of this. Now, let me know what you desire in a relationship and what numbers are in your chart and how much they resonated. Like, did I eat a little bit? Did I chew? I don't know. But thank you so much for listening. Make sure you follow on Instagram and TikTok at Numbers with Ishtakari. Make sure you check out all my services, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.